To say we are thrilled to see you in an understatement. It must extend a joyful welcome to you all. Your presence makes us very happy. All on third day of International Faculty Development Program. We are made for goodness, we are made for love, we are made for friendliness, we are made for togetherness, we are made for all the beautiful things that you and I know. I'm glad to welcome Mr. S. Johnson to initiate a welcome address.
Small cheer and great welcome makes a merry feast. With this quote, a good morning to everybody gathers here in this virtual meet and happily welcome you all to this International Faculty Development Program. I really admire at your punctual to this virtual. I'm damn sure this session is going to be filled with intellectual. I'm extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to address you all on this auspicious occasion. First of all, I would like to welcome the dignitaries of this day. I would like to welcome Dr. Kidanjali Narayanan, Faculty of Education, Coordinator of Examinations, University Technology, Mara, Malaysia, whose lecture will take us into a new exposure in flipped and alternative classroom instruction. Truly, in future, this session will make us a good teacher with you, ma'am. Followingly, I would like to welcome Dr. Peterson Ogera Obera, Coordinator, Mount Kenya University, Kenya, whose thought-provoking speech of art will certainly going to pierce our heart. Definitely, this will help us to have a successful education in this pandemic situation. So I heartily welcome you, sir. I'm overwhelmed to welcome the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the Deans, the Controller of Examination, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, the Chairman, the Secretary, the Principal, and the Faculty of Lakshmi College of Education. I welcome you all. I would like to welcome Mrs. M. Kalaivani and Mrs. Devendra Tirmagal, Assistant Professors, Lakshmi College of Education, who are going to introduce the Chief Guest. I welcome you, ma'am. I extend a warm welcome to the organizing committee who are playing their role perfectly behind the screen. I welcome you all. With immense pleasure, I would like to welcome the principals, the heads of the department, the faculty members, the students from other colleges around the globe. I welcome you all. Once again, I would like to welcome each and every one of the participants who have come in numbers to join this webinar and make it a successful one. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with heart. It's my delight to request Ms. Devendra Tirumahal, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, to announce and honor our chief guest.
May I audible, Harini?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah. Very good. Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to our program organizers for placing me with the blissful opportunity to introduce our chief guest for the first session of the Faculty Development Program. It's my honor and privilege to introduce our resource person, Dr. Gitanjali Narayanan, Faculty of Education, University Technology, Mara, Malaysia. Ma'am has been working in University Technology, Mara for 28 years and is currently serving the Faculty of Education as the Coordinator of Examination also. She obtained her bachelor degree in education with a double major, English and mathematics, and both masters and PhD in language teaching. He has been teaching linguistic and pedagogical skills at the foundation, undergraduate, and postgraduate levels. She has been actively involved as a researcher, consultant, trainer, journal article reviewer, besides supervising postgraduate students. Her area of interest includes language testing, teaching methodology, and postgraduate studies. I welcome you, ma'am. Thank you to all.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Tirumala and MC Harini and Mr. Johnson. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for putting this program together. Particularly a special thanks to Professor S. Mani, who's been a vital person to contact us, the university, with the Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University. And a special thanks goes to Dr. P. Subramaniam and Dr. Vincent Rajasekhar for helping all the technicalities. All right, allow me to share my screen. Okay, I'm Geetanjali Narayanan from the Faculty of Education, University Technology Mara, Malaysia. And today I'll be sharing an alternative classroom instruction, which is flipped classroom. As you can see, the picture that is in my slide, the classroom is like in an upside down manner. All right, so that is the concept behind what a flipped classroom is. Before we move on to the method itself and this instructional, the alternative instruction, allow me to introduce my university, a continuation from what my colleague had introduced you to yesterday, Professor Dr. Teo, who talked about the research that we embark on at the university. We are also known as UITM, and this is our link to the faculty website. And at the faculty, we run undergraduate programs as well as postgraduate programs. Now, how we would like to link with you if you are interested, we actually we do programs like guest speakers. So we try to work with another person, another lecturer in another university abroad, and we try to see what is common, and we pick a course where we invite that lecturer as a guest speaker in our class, and we would also do the same for their class. So in that way, the students get that exposure of having a person with a different perspective from a different cultural background to address the same issues in their classes. So this is ongoing. Currently, we are doing this with the universities in Indonesia, whom we have signed our MOU with. And at the moment, we are actually in the midst of signing an MOU with Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, and Professor Mani is in charge. And we also are looking for research collaborators. So if you're interested, probably you can leave your email address with the organizers, and they will get in touch with me, and we can try and see how we can work this together. Right. So we also have staff and student mobility, where we send students out, and we also accept students from overseas into our program for one semester, or a few weeks. We also have external examiners, and we would welcome if anyone is interested in looking at examining our PhD work. And we are also looking at collaborating in terms of training, where we can have exchange of expertise. So these are some of the programs that we have at the faculty currently going on, and we wish to extend this to some of the institutions in India. And we hope it would be a great success in this manner. All right. This is a person I admire a lot, and my name actually came from his book, Rabindranath Tagore's book, Geetanjali. And one of his quotations Don't limit a child to your own learning, for he was born in another time. I think this is a very important thing to look at, because we know very well that students are actually one generation or maybe even two or three generations um, after us. And they are born in their own times. And in that time, things are different. All right. I don't know if probably if you're around my age, you would have realized that 2 decades, 3 decades ago, we didn't have computers, we didn't have this ability to have this kind of virtual meets. So when we have such things, why not embrace it? All right. So when we teach, we also have to remember this, because they are born in another time and they may not understand what we had gone through. And what we can do is that we can try to understand what is happening at the moment, so that we can fit in what we think is right for them. All right, because we are the ones who are taking control of the classroom. This person, Swami Vivekananda, is also my idol. And this is a quotation that he has given, which I think would be apt for this presentation. Learn everything that is good from others, but bring it in, and in your own way absorb it. Do not become others. So, what I'm going to share with you today is more of a sharing session, something that I have experienced, something that I have tried. It's also part of my students' research that she's doing, working on flipped classroom, and we've got a grant for that. And it doesn't mean that whatever I've put together for today is the end of it. All right, you can always take what is good and work on it. You don't need to mimic exactly what we suggest. Okay. All right, let's look at the definition of what is flipped classroom. I'm not sure if you have heard of it, or this is something new. I'm sure many of us do it, but we don't know that is what it's called. All right. Especially at this point when you are teaching online, when students are having difficulty with technology, how do you handle classes? Right. So let's look at what people have said about flipped classroom, the scholars. Bergman and Sams said that it's a blending learning model, a blended learning model. Blended learning model is where you use a bit of technology as well as your books and materials in class. So you would set some work in class, and then they would go back and continue doing that work. So what they have defined it as is that it facilitates teachers to make better use of the face-to-face sessions, where there's reduction of teacher lectures, and there's an increase of students' active learning, collaboration, and scaffolding. Right? Fu and Wang, they said that a flipped classroom is actually, it converses the traditional teaching methods. It delivers instruction outside the class and makes homework task as the class activity. While Tucker says that students learn necessary contents at home and apply the knowledge in the classroom. Okay. Mervert in 2016 said that he adds on technology and out-of-class video activities to the lesson. This is added into a classroom, so therefore it's called a flipped classroom. That's according to Mervert. And according to Jangit, Kaur, Mulholland, and Sin, they say that flipped classroom is where students learn new contents through electronic resources during out-of-class time. And Demirelli said that it is a form of an instruction that students are instructed at home and exposed to the assignment model in school. Right? So these are the kind of definitions. There's a little bit of mixture of ideas, but basically it's talking about use of technology, something in class and something out of class. Right? So I hope you have an idea. If you are not sure of what the term is, but maybe it rings a bell for some. You are doing it, but you didn't know it's called flipped classroom. Or maybe you knew about it, you knew exactly what it is, and this is just like a confirmation. All right, so what is the difference between traditional learning and flipped learning? In a traditional learning, there's input in the class, and at home is when you do the work. All right. So lectures or class teaching is done in the classroom where study materials are given, explanations are given by the teacher. Teacher says more than the students, right? And then the students are given work to do, so practice exercises. And these practice exercises, if you can't complete them in class, you probably take it home as homework, or you might have practice exercises to confirm what you have learned, and then you move on to doing more exercises at home to enhance that learning, right? So that's how the traditional classroom works. In a flipped classroom, what happens is that at home, that's where you get the input, and in school, that's where you do the work. So it's uh, really a reversed order. All right. So what happens? How does this work? So at home, study materials are actually given to the students, and students watch these materials via videos, or you can give them materials to read. It's not mandatory. It has to be technology based. It can be anything at all that relates to the study material as long as the input is there. Okay. And how do we know students have done it? How do we know students have watched it or read the materials? So you give them some exercise to check their understanding. So it would be something like exercises related directly to the content that you have given in either the video or the reading materials. All right. So when they come to class, they already have some idea. They might not know wholly, but they would have some idea of what they are supposed to know. So in the classroom, what you would do is to discuss the study material, but not to repeat what you have said in your video, and then to do activities. So activities can be done collaboratively together with their peers, or it could be also independent work. All right. For example, if you have discussions, experiments, sometimes experiments are good to do in a group because you learn from each other. Sometimes it involves some details that you need individual attention. So that's where you have that independent work done. But it is based on what you would have learned as input at home. All right. And also real life applications. All right. So you may ask this question, why flip? I mean, aren't we doing the right thing? Well, this is just an alternative. It's not the way to go. It's not like a mandatory classroom instruction. All right. As a teacher, I think we need to be equipped with many types of instructional methodologies, and you need to see which one fits where. All right. So in certain circumstances, you might find the flipped classroom works well. In some circumstances, you find that you need to tell the students personally first. So the traditional learning or the traditional teaching method would work better. All right. So let's look at what would be some of the reasons why you would want to choose or you want to elect the flipped classroom. All right. Because you're given materials prior to your class, you can access the content anytime. So if the teacher gives you the video via email or WhatsApp or Telegram or in any other manner, all right, you have the whole day or the rest of the day to look at the material. You can do it in the evening. You can do one part in the evening and then one part at night. Anything at all that suits you. All right. And then when you don't because the content is in video form and you're not sure, you don't understand something, or it was a little too fast what the teacher had said in the video, you can actually rewind, you can pause, and you can watch it as many times as you want. All right. So there is this flexibility in that sense. And reading materials too. I mean, if it's a video, you're rewinding it. But for reading materials, you probably want to read it again. You read one paragraph, you don't understand, you can read it again. All right. But because this is slightly different in school, because in the classroom, when you're given an article to read, and you're tested on your comprehension ability, what will happen is you're given 2 minutes or 5 minutes to read that material, and assumption is you should understand after you have read it. So you would read it quickly. If you are aware of the reading skills, like skimming, scanning, you scan through and then you look at the headings and you make up what it says, but you might not have got the right interpretation of the reading materials. But if you read it again, you might get a different idea. So here, if the reading materials are given prior to the class, the students actually get to read it multiple times, and they get to look at it slowly. And this would also help to cater to the students' varying rates of learning. All right. Because we know very well there are slow students, there are fast ones, and the slow learners and the fast learners, of course, they have different paces, different pace of learning. So they need time to digest. The good ones will grasp immediately. The weak ones need a bit more time. Right? So this flipped classroom, because the materials are available at any time, they can look at it. If they can only read one paragraph in one sitting, let them do that. And then they will take a break and come back to it and continue. Right? So that is a plus point for the flipped classroom. And students can note what they don't understand. They can jot it down. And then later on in class, it will be clarified. So in class, the teacher has a bit more time to give personal attention, right? While they are doing their work and students ask questions, they can relate to it. Besides that, in the classroom, you can do collaborative work, problem solving, and practical work in class, right? This is possible because you don't do much teaching. So if you have, I'm not sure about India, how long is your one class, usually in a school level, like is it 40 minutes or 1 hour per class? In Malaysia, we have one period is about 30 to 40 minutes. All right. So in 30 minutes, if you have a single period to teach, itself will take up a lot more time. And what more to do activities within the class. So a lot of work is set as homework. So here, if you do a flipped classroom, they prepare before coming to class. So in class, you can focus on your activities, right? So this will also maximize students' participation with minimum teacher's instruction. So student talk time versus teacher talk time, right? Most of the time, teacher talks a lot more than students in a class, in a traditional teaching setting. All right. So in a flipped classroom, you will notice because they do activities together. So students are actually using the language, using the content. All right. Whatever they are studying. It doesn't have to be for language classes. It can be for maths. It can be for science, anything at all. Right. Okay. So how do we develop this kind of lesson or a flipped classroom? Right. So this is the process. I'm sure if you read up on flipped classroom, you will find different types of models, but generally the process is this. All right. So there's planning, there's recording, sharing, change, an exchange of the setting, and then how you group the students and regroup them. Okay, let's look at each one. So for planning, you select a particular lesson to flip. All right. So you look at your scheme of work and then you decide which one would you like to flip, like something that you can actually do. Prepare the materials prior to the class and then give it to the students earlier so that they can have a look at the materials and just try to make sense of it. And then they come to class and you conduct activities. All right. So you need to decide which one. And you look at the learning outcomes. So outline those learning outcomes because at the end of the day, that's what you want to achieve, right? So in terms of planning, once it's done, all right, now you have to look out for the materials. Okay, you have gotten all the materials, put them together, and then create a video. Now, the best would be the teacher creating that video. So you give that explanation to what you are teaching. All right, with examples. I find that giving examples are easy, but not inserting jokes, because in class you can actually insert jokes, but in a recording it seems a bit awkward to tell a joke at that point. All right, but sometimes practice makes perfect. Once you get the hang of it, you find that you become a bit more comfortable and you can actually do it. So screencast works, but not necessarily. Except that if you make sure that everything you want to say is already mentioned in the video. All right. Now, if you find that this is all awkward, like how am I going to stand in front of a camera and say it? It just doesn't, it's not me. Okay. Some of you may say that. So you can actually look out for third-party videos. There are many videos out there, especially on YouTube and many other platforms. You would find that these videos actually relate to your class and you can use that in your class. So you need to find time to locate that kind of material so that you can share it with your students. So next step is to share. You send the videos to your students. Make sure that it's engaging, because the videos that replicates a lecture may not be well received by your students. They want to see some action. They want to see some colors. All right. So you need to create that. You need to include that. There are lots of videos on YouTube to show you how to create this kind of videos, to add things into your video, to embed stuff, sounds, videos, audio, anything at all that would enhance that video. Make sure that it's engaging, it's clear. All right. And then tell the students that if they have any doubts, they need to jot it down. You have to make it clear so that they don't just watch it for the sake of watching, but they will watch it to try to make sense of it. They will try to understand the content. All right. And tell them that this will be discussed in class. So now that you have done the part in the home front, all right, students are now working on that video, they are watching it, they are reading materials, whatever. So this is now going to change the entire classroom setting, right? So first thing what you will do is you will ask questions. Who doesn't understand, or which part you didn't understand? Could you follow what I explained in the video? Could you follow what you saw in that video? All right. And then they would ask you questions if they have jotted it down, and make sure you don't repeat what is in the video. This is a big no-no. All right, because it defeats the purpose of you giving that video with all the content, and then you're going to repeat it in their class. So that will also tell you that your video was not effective. Maybe you didn't add on certain information that would have made it more understandable, more comprehensible. All right. So make sure you get all that right and don't repeat what is in the video, and ask them questions. Okay, so how can we do this? We can actually encourage students by asking questions like, okay, a student says, ma'am, I don't understand this part. Can you explain to us? Then you can ask the question back to the classmates. Right. Anyone here who actually understood what that part was? Can you try to explain to your friend? So then the classroom setting becomes a bit more casual because there's this peer learning that's taking place. And you are there, you are going to control the class because you are the teacher. So you will facilitate by asking questions and they will try to make sense. But if they got it wrong, then that's where you come in as a scaffolding point where you will give them the clarifications and you would tell them what is right. Okay. And you can then group, once they have clarified the doubts, you have already planned your activities. So you put them in groups and get them to work on these activities. So it could be task-based learning, any form of collaborative learning, problem solving, inquiry-based learning, where they would actually need to discuss and ask each other, tell each other, and it might be a little noisy, but it works because that's where the learning takes place. All right, then get the class back together and discuss the outcome of the discussion. So how do you handle this? Also, not to give away the answer, not to repeat what the students have presented, but you ask questions. This is where critical thinking can be fostered. When you start asking questions, are you sure? Right? Why did you say that? What about others? Do you all have the same opinion? Do you agree with what the other person said? All right. Do you think there's an alternative to this? Can we look at it in a different way? So you ask questions, you make them think. All right. Don't give the answers yet. And then when someone gives you answers, you start this class discussion. So everyone can chip in their ideas and it becomes a very interesting learning experience. And you will find that at the end of the day, as a teacher, you get that self-satisfaction as well. Okay, so what happens after the class? Of course, you do teacher reflection. All right, you would review the lesson. Once you have reviewed the lesson, you would also realize where you have gone wrong, what you should have added. It would have been better if you had done something more, or it would have been better if your video was not that long. All right, it would have been better if you added some gestures, or you acted out, you demonstrated something. So you review the lesson and look at what is missing and what was good. All right, and you revise that lesson. Okay, straight away you make a note and then keep it in your portfolio, because you can then recycle this lesson. Okay, so when you do it again, you can actually compare the results to see whether it is workable and for what kind of students, what kind of lessons. And this becomes a bit more exciting because you are constantly looking at ways how to improve your teaching. Right? So you may ask this question. Now that the students are at home, are you sure they will do their work? Are you sure they will be able to understand what we have taught them? We have put this video together and given them. We have put the reading materials and given them. Are you sure they can understand? All right. Now, remember I mentioned earlier that when you have a lesson that is given to the student, the video, you also should give some exercises that go along with that video. That exercise must be something simple that will ensure us the student should have watched that video, only then he can answer that question. So it could be filling in the blanks, matching, whatever simple exercises to see if they have understood. So this is purely to check comprehension level. All right. So on the teacher's side, what the teacher would do is to select the content, select the delivery method. How do you want to teach it, in the video form or any other form, and then find for materials. All right. So this classroom outside classroom activities can be done by students because the focus of the learning outcome is basically remembering, understanding, and a little bit of application. So, from the Bloom's taxonomy, this is the lower thinking order skill. And this is quite possible for most of the students. Generally, students would be able to do this because what they watch is what they're going to answer. It's not going to go beyond that. All right. What is beyond that is going to be done in the classroom, where there's a bit of assessment. You would select activities and probably even coach students. All right. So when it involves assessment here is for you to check whether they have actually done their work, and then to also see if they can think a little bit further. So you would ask questions which would require them to give their opinions, to evaluate the materials that you had given them. All right. And maybe the activities is to come up with something, so to create. So that involves the thinking, higher order thinking skills. Now, the higher order thinking skills is done in class because you need someone to guide. The teacher is there. The lower order thinking skills, students can actually do on their own with a little bit of help. So the help comes from your video or the reading materials. All right. So this is actually possible in a flipped classroom design process in a flipped classroom, because students can actually handle the lower order thinking skills and they need a teacher to facilitate for the higher order thinking skills. All right. This is a sample lesson of mine where I actually used flipped classroom to conduct the class. So prior to my class, I gave them materials. I teach methodology. So this is towards the end. This is already a week 10 out of week 14. So this was week 9, I think. The materials were given to the students prior to class. So I gave them a video of the PowerPoint slides that I had come up with and a voiceover. All right. This is also another thing. You don't need to stand in front of a camera and conduct the video recording. You can actually sit where you're comfortable and look at your slides and talk as if like you're teaching. So then you record it, and when it's recorded you can actually post it to your students. So that is one way to get your recordings done, a voiceover. Then I also looked for some YouTube videos, and they are short videos, actually 5 minutes, to tell you what differentiated instruction is all about. And then an expert's opinion about her perspective of differentiated instructions and the differentiations that she makes. And the discussion materials were also given in the Google Classroom. This is my Google Classroom. And the materials, they had to look at it because it comes with some materials from the textbook, because these are teacher trainees. So we used one of the school textbooks, one particular topic, and this is to teach grammar. All right. So they watched the video and everything, and they had to write some comments. That was another thing that I added on. And then when they came to class, we did this activity. So prior to the activity, I asked them, did you understand what you saw in the videos, the PowerPoint slides? Did you have any problems? So some of them had problems with some parts of it, which I explained. And then we moved on with the activity. So in the activity, it was a group work. They had to come up with a lesson plan, as well as to explain how this differentiated activities can be done. So we divided our class into 4 groups, and then each one worked on one area. And at the end, they presented. Now, the outcome of this lesson, I found it was very satisfying, because students were actually able to give me their opinions on what is the differentiated activities in terms of content, how did they differentiate it in terms of process, and we could actually see it clearly, the justifications. And then other students from other groups actually ask questions like, did you consider this? Did you consider that? So it became a very active online class. My class is actually online, and normally when I teach, students are muted, so you don't hear them, you don't see them, cameras are off, except for the last part. Everyone will say, "Thank you, ma'am, thank you, doctor," and then they will go off. That's it. But this class was so active because they were presenting one thing, and then people were asking questions, and those who couldn't use their mic were actually typing in the chat box. So that became very active, and I felt that this is really good. But you can't do this all the time. Sometimes lessons only work in a few uh, alternate times. So you probably want to do flipped classroom in week 3, and then week 7, and maybe week 12, but not consecutive lessons, because there's a lot to be done at home, and it also involves preparation on your side as a teacher. All right. Okay. So like any other method, we always have advantages and disadvantages. The advantage, I think generally I've mentioned in most of my slides, so you can pick up from there, the flexibility of learning. All right. There's a flexible learning pace. It promotes learner-centeredness. All right. The student-centered learning is definitely there because students take control of their learning. Right? It leads to greater personal satisfaction, not only for the students, as it is also for the teacher, because you can actually see your students taking part actively. Right? It allows teachers to conduct interesting class activities. So your class activities are no longer worksheets after worksheets, but it would be more elaborate ones. All right, like problem solving. You can actually conduct many different types of activities there, and your creativity is actually seen. Right. The disadvantage would be students may avoid the task because we don't know whether they watch or not. All students will say they have done their work until we ask them questions. So there might be some who will avoid. Can be extremely time consuming for the teacher to develop the lesson. It could be an unequal participation from the students because the students who are slow um, may need even more time to digest, or it could also be students who watch and students who don't watch. So students who have watched will be active in class. Students who don't watch, who didn't manage to watch for some reason, they may not be able to participate because you're not repeating the content. All right. Like for adult learners, you might have students who are working and they don't have the time to watch. So that could be a minus point for them. All right. And of course, because it involves videos and materials that you get online, the gadgets are important. So having appropriate technology device is compulsory. But again, you can make those changes. You can cater to the needs of the students. Like if you realize that many students don't have the means of downloading from Google Classroom, videos can be posted on YouTube. All right. So if you post it on YouTube, then students can actually watch it on their phone. So that will be an alternative for having such videos, and more students can watch it. All right. Okay, I'll end my talk with this quote from Vivekananda. Lay down your comforts, your pleasures, your names, fame, or position, nay, even your lives, and make a bridge of human chains over which millions will cross this ocean of life. Bring all the forces of good together. Do not care under what banner you march. Do not care what be your color, green, blue, or red. but mix up all the colors and produce that intense glow of white, the color of love. Ours is to work, and results will definitely take care of themselves. All right, these are my references. Thank you very much for staying online and listening to my talk. Do I have time for questions? Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. We have come to know your secret of your success. You have just now preached what you have practiced. It's kind information for participants. Now, your turn. Please kindly unmute your mic and ask questions, or otherwise, you may put a question in the chat box. Participants, please ask your questions.
Ma'am, Gitanjali madam, this is
Yes.
Subramanian. You have done a great job, madam. And on behalf of the organizing team, we wholeheartedly thank you, ma'am, for your excellent presentation. Definitely, all of our participants definitely have taken notes of your presentation, and definitely they will reflect your ideas in the near future. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful and detailed presentation about flipped classroom. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm Shankar from Madurai. Can I
Yes.
put a question for you?
Yes, sure.
Is this flipped classroom could replace the need for a teacher?
Definitely no. We are still in business.
Okay.
The reason is, if you realize the out of class, what we would do at the beginning of the lesson itself, the process of the lesson, where you create the materials and you give it to the students, the choice of material is the teachers. The students are not choosing their own. Okay, so you still have control over what you're teaching. And then the next part is you are there as the pillar of support for the classroom. So when you conduct the activity, you are also deciding what kind of activities they are going to do. You know, how much are you going to teach, what you're going to teach, it's all decided by the teacher, it's not by the students. So the flipped classroom cannot replace the teacher, because the teacher needs to explain, and you are there as a facilitator in those activities. So whenever the students don't understand something, you are always there to give that confirmation if they have said something right, or if they have gone a little bit off track, like made a mistake in their understanding, or they misunderstood something, you can actually put them back on track. So that is the job of the teacher. But the role of the teacher here changes in a flipped classroom, because you are no longer the knowledge provider. But you do have the knowledge, I mean, you can't run away from that fact. But what will happen is that you are not going to impart that knowledge per se in the classroom. That is done outside the classroom, which you have put together. So if you say that, technology is going to replace teachers, no way.
Thank you, ma'am. One more add-on question. Other
Yes.
than video, we do have any other methodology, because video may take but higher bandwidth. Many of the rural teachers may not be using this practically. So is there a way other than video? Can we use some other method for the flip classroom?
Well, the reading materials would be good. If it is really difficult for one or two students in the class to watch the video, then probably transcripts of the video can be given to the students, so students can still make out what you wanted to say. But an alternative method for a video could be audio. You might not have the camera to take the whole video shot, but you can do it on audio. But then you have to remember it has to be complemented with some reading materials or printed materials, because if it's a video, you can show slides, you can show pictures, posters, or whatever. But if it is offline, it's going to be difficult. So if they are given, like you refer to a textbook, or you give them handouts and you tell them, all right, you have to pick up this handout somewhere and then use that together with an audio that you're sending, I think that is possible.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. But again, like
ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Divya.
Madam, in the chat. Divya, கேளுங்க. Ma'am, in the YouTube chat box, John Lewis has asked that, do you suggest that even after the lockdown period, if you, he asked that he has the suggestion about using the flipped classroom after the lockdown period.
Yes. Actually, the introduction of flipped classroom came in way ahead of the virus. The virus has actually helped us to use this method in a more effective manner and a more efficient manner, because the nature of the learning is such that we are learning online. So I don't see why we can't do that, because then you can maximize your classroom contact point. Like for language classes, I don't know, I think it's similar to India, because we are currently working with a lecturer in Loyola, and we found out that students are actually for language, for English, use of English is very minimal outside the classroom. So when you teach the language, that's the only time they get to practice the language in your class. So if you are going to talk and teach and tell them everything about what they need to know, when will they ever practice? So that is one way where you can actually give the materials. The input is given to the students prior to the class. When they come to class, they are actually communicating with each other. They are using the language to communicate. So regardless what activities, whether it's discussion or even telling a story for that matter, you are still using the language. So you are giving that opportunity for students to increase their talk time and reduce the teacher talk time. Teacher is there to tell them, all right, you shouldn't say it this way, you should say it in another way. So you can correct them, put them back on track, so that they become better users of the language. That is in a language class. I'm sure you can do the same for your own subjects. So yes,
Madam,
you can use it after lockdown.
Thank you, madam.
Hello, ma'am.
Actually, in this pandemic online classroom situation, this flipped is very much useful. We are sending first PPT and study material, but to handle the flipped classroom, the teachers should have a very deep content knowledge. I think so, madam, because
Yes.
by basic things again and again repeating, no need. They themselves can understand. So deep subject knowledge is required. Madam, one candidate asked, kindly differentiate blended learning and personalized instruction from flipped.
Okay. Blended learning is actually the big umbrella, and a flipped classroom is part of it. So if you talk about blended learning, it's a matter of using different modes of teaching. That is called blended learning. So you mix and match different ways. So usually it is online plus a face-to-face. So you can have like classwork done, and then you can continue with an online discussion or forum or something like that, can be done outside class time. So at their own free time after reading, they can write their comments or whatever that you require them to do. So that would be more like a blended learning. Flipped classroom is where the instruction is at home. Whereas in the blended learning, it doesn't define that instruction where the instruction has to be. It can be at home, it can be in school. Most of the time it's in school, but in a flipped classroom, it's strictly the instruction is at home. So like what Madam Dhanalakshmi said just now, students can do the basics on their own. I think I showed you a slide where the lower order thinking skills are the ones that you relate to for the home-based input, and the higher order thinking skills is done in the class. And definitely they need someone with that much of knowledge to handle higher order thinking skills. So you'd need the teacher for sure. All right. So that would be the difference, because the input comes outside the classroom and the work is done in the classroom. So that would be the difference between a blended learning and flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is very specific.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, 80 questions are posted, and now move the delegate for one of it.
Mr. Mugilan, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful session. You have answered very well for thoroughly, and we are very happy with your answers. Harini, you can proceed now.
Thank you, ma'am. You have answered your questions with your patience. Once again, I thank you. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Keetana to furnish her vote of thanks.
A warm and cherished morning to everyone. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of the organizing committee and the entire fraternity, first of all, my sincere thanks to God Almighty for making today's event a grand success. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University and Lakshmi College of Education, I extend my gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Gitanjali Narayan, Faculty of Education, Coordinator of Examination, University Technology, Mara, Malaysia, who handled the session on flipped classroom, alternative classroom instruction. Through her speech, she insisted that a flipped classroom is an instructional strategy and a type of blended learning which aims to increase student engagement and learning by having students complete reading at their home and work on live problem solving during class and so on. She spent her busiest time on gracing this occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to hear her thoughts, and this will be definitely encouraging us in our future events. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. We wish to have many more role models like you in our homeland. Thank you, ma'am. A special thanks to Ms. Devendra Kula Thirumagal, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, for introducing the resource person. Further, hearty thanks to everyone who made this meeting possible. This type of incident can't happen overnight. It requires planning and hard work. We thank you all for being with us. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Harini?
Ma?
Harini, you may call. Next, proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
A mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimension. It's my pleasure to invite Ms. M. Kalaivani Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, to present as a token of love and appreciation to our guest.
Thank you, Harini. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, audible.
Most respected dignitaries, professors, faculty members from various universities and colleges in and abroad, and my dear student friends, very good morning to one and all present here. It's my pleasure to introduce our today's resource person of the second session, Peterson Oigra Obera. He's a To our surprise, he has completed his M.Ed and PhD in education at Madurai Kamaraj University, Madurai, and he has more than 15 years of teaching experiences, and he has guided more than 5 PhD scholars, and he has also guided more than 20 master degree students, and his area of interest is developing research tools and venture to new areas to solve the existing problems in education. He has presented so many papers in various national and international level conferences at Mount Kenya University, at SBT College of Special Education, at Madurai Kamaraj University, in India as well as abroad. He has a very good leadership. Under his leadership, he has served as a coordinator of school-based program in MKU, a coordinator of early childhood education department MKU, and he was a patron of SDA group Mount Kenya University Nakuru, and he also served as a director academic affairs. He also served as a secretary for Foreign Students Association. He was a choir master, and he was a head boy in his school, and he also a dormitory prefect. And his great strength is he is very passionate in music, fine arts, as well as he is most interested in sports too. And he also achieved more achievements both in academic as well as in co-curricular activities and in extracurricular activities. With these few words, I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Lakshmi College of Education and Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University for this international webinar on faculty development program. We are so kind to have you on this day. Thank you, sir. Welcome you. Once again, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. A resourceful person will always make opportunity fit his need. In this delightful occasion, I welcome the optimistic personality and the man of intellectual who's from abroad to fulfill our mind with valuable resources, our respectable chief guest and coordinator of Mount Kenya University, Sir Dr. Peterson Oigra Obera.
Sir Peterson, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm very, very, very thankful for this wonderful opportunity which has been given to me, and I consider this one to be a great honor. I never expected it to happen, but since it has just come, I'm very happy, and it is actually giving me a homecoming experience. India, I consider it as my second country, because it is a country which has given me life. It has made me to be what I am. For those ones who may not be knowing, I happened to stay in India for about 16 years. And in those 16 years, I happened to stay in 3 different states. To start with, I was in Madhya Pradesh, University of Indore, then moved to Calcutta University in Kerala, and finally landed in Tamil Nadu in Madurai Kamaraj University, where I did my master's and PhD, as you have been informed. So in a big way, I can say that I am what I am just because of India. And this kind of association, let me believe that it is going to continue. And through sharing like this, there is a lot that we can learn, and it can help our countries at least to develop and progress in terms of education. Now, the topic for this particular conference is about COVID-19 and education. We do understand that COVID just came abruptly, and nobody knew that it was going to happen. Many things have taken place, many changes have appeared, and the things are no longer happening the same way they used to be. And I also believe that there is a possibility that it may continue to be there, and the life may not be the same anymore. So what I like to say is that it is good for us to understand exactly what is COVID. And according to what I've just gathered, according to what was provided, that is on that 1st December 2019, World Health Organization was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown cause in Wuhan City, China. A novel coronavirus was identified as the cause by Chinese authorities on 7th January 2020 and was temporarily named as 2019 nCoV. COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus. CO stands for corona, V stands for virus, D stands for disease, and 19 for 2019 when it was first detected. Formerly, this disease was referred to as 2019 novel coronavirus or 2019 nCoV. As you understand, this pandemic has really caused a serious problem in the field of education. And because of this very reason, it is very, very important for us to understand exactly what COVID-19 is, what it has just caused in the field of education, and what we are expected to do in order to move forward as far as our education is concerned. Now, concerning to the symptoms of this coronavirus disease, we find that COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Most infected will develop mild to moderate illness and they recover without hospitalization. But we have got cases whereby it may require this kind of hospitalization and treatment. Most common symptoms are actually fever, dry cough, tiredness, and in the case of less common symptoms, we have aches and pains, sore throat, diarrhea, headache, loss of taste or smell, rash on skin, or discoloration of fingers or toes. So in this case, as we have been told, for these less common symptoms, it means that they may appear to some people or not. And as we understand that we are living in a society which is changing very fast, which is very dynamic, and you can understand that from the time COVID-19 came into existence, many changes have taken place, Many things are now being done in a different way. When we talk about maybe our socialization and many other activities, they have taken a different route or a different form. And when we talk about education, we also need to think of means and ways of ensuring that even though COVID-19 is in place, education should continue. In many countries, we do understand that education has really suffered. Education has really suffered because there are some who have never attended classes, and for those ones who have attended classes, they have not actually done it to the greatest extent. They have been on and off, because whenever they are told that now things are not safe, they have to stay away, which is actually a reality of life. Now, when we look at that case of prevention, because it is good for us to be safe, we understand that the entire world is actually struggling, trying to ensure that people survive and the other activities continue as usual. Now, when we look at the preventions, we are told that basically the most important thing is about cleanliness. We need to clean our hands often, use soap and water, or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from one who is coughing or sneezing. Initially, sneezing and coughing was not a problem. It was not an issue. But of late, if you can sneeze or cough where people are, you can see what kind of reaction from the people, because things are no longer the same. And we also told you that we need to maintain actually the safe distance from those people who are coughing and sneezing. We need to wear masks when physical distancing is not possible. So in this case, you can imagine of a scenario whereby the entire world is now using the mask. We are just using because we are trying to keep ourselves safe. Then we also told that we don't touch our eyes, nose, or mouth, because there is a possibility that as we touch things here and there, we may get some of contaminations, which may get introduced into our body system, and you find that we have started facing some challenges which may hinder our normal, maybe normal life. Then another thing we need also to understand as a prevention, we are told to cover our nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you are coughing or sneezing, which means things are not going to be done in the normal way, the way it used to be. It means that since the pandemic came into existence, life has not been the same, and may not be the same. What we are expected to do is to ensure that we are able to play safe. Whatever that we do it knowing that we need to survive and we need to take care of our fellow friends who are just near to us. We are also told to stay home if you feel unwell. If you feel unwell, it is better to stay at home to avoid transmission, or maybe to know exactly what could have been the cause of your unwellness. If you have fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. We are told that if there is anything that we feel which is not okay, it is good for us to seek medical attention in good time so that we could be able to save ourselves. We understand that many people have lost their lives just because of getting medical attention very late, which is actually a serious issue or a serious problem. We are told that calling in advance allows your healthcare providers to quickly direct you to the right healthy facility. This protects you and prevents the spread of virus and other infections. That is actually the arrangement most countries have made to ensure that the spread of these dangerous disease is actually controlled. We need to understand that each and every person has got the responsibility to ensure that all of us are safe and we are able to continue with our normal activities, even though in a different way. In the case of treatment, we are told that after exposure to someone who has COVID-19, you need to do the following. One, call your health care provider or a COVID-19 hotline to find out where and when to get a test. Because it is necessary for us to know that if you have contracted it, it is better if it is actually controlled from the initial stage. If we wait, there is a possibility that you may spread until we find it very difficult to manage it. We are also asked to cooperate with contact tracing procedures to stop the spread of virus, which means if you had gotten it from somewhere, you should also give a list of people you have interacted with so that the spread can be controlled. We are talking of all of these things because we do understand that all sectors have been affected just because of this pandemic, not only education. If testing is not available, stay home and away from others for 14 days. The reason of doing it that way is to avoid, because it is not very clear whether you have contracted it or not. And actually controlling the spread is the most important thing, because we have seen what has happened in different countries. Many people have lost lives, and even economically, the countries are now struggling to survive. While you are in quarantine, do not go to work or to not go to school or to public places. Ask someone to bring you supplies. The reason of doing it this way is to avoid meeting many people and to minimize chances of passing it from one person to another, which is actually a security measure. Keep at least 1 meter distance from others, even from your family members. Of course, this one sounds a very strange condition, because you can imagine keeping a distance of about 1 meter. How is it possible when we talk about maybe our transportation system? How is it when we talk about our families? There are some families you may find that the members are many, and if there are many, how do you ensure that the same distance is maintained all through? It is actually a serious challenge, and that's why we're finding it necessary to ensure that the security measures which have been put in place, we try to observe them to avoid the spread, because if it is allowed to spread, it may reach a point whereby we may find it very difficult to control the same. Wear a medical mask to protect others, including when you need to seek medical care. Putting on a mask has been recommended, and it doesn't mean that putting on a mask you are 100% safe, but it minimizes the chances of the spread. Clean your hands frequently. Actually, here the bottom line is cleanliness. It means that regularly we need to clean our hands, more especially using running water, more especially from the tap, so that we can avoid the spread of the virus which is actually very, very essential. Stay in a separate room from other family members, and if not possible, wear a medical mask, which means in that case, even when going to sleep, it might be required for such things to happen. If you are sick and you cannot avoid, you cannot find a separate place to stay, such measures might be necessary to ensure that all are safe. Keep the room well ventilated. It means that the ventilation is very, very essential to ensure that this pandemic is controlled to a greater extent and to ensure our survival. If you share a room, place beds at least 1 meter apart. That is a condition we have been told. If you are sleeping in the same room, there is need to ensure that that distance of about 1 meter is observed to avoid the spread of this particular pandemic. Monitor yourself for any symptom for 14 days. It means that within 14 days, one should be able to tell whether the problem is there or not, or you have contracted the virus or not. So within this particular period, there is need to monitor yourself. In case you note any symptom, in case you encounter any difficulties, you need to respond immediately. And it is because of this very reason we are told that you can call your health care provider immediately if you have any of these danger signs, that is difficulty breathing, loss of speech, or mobility, confusion, or chest pain, which is actually very, very important for us to understand in order to be able to keep ourselves safe. We are also told that we need to stay positive by keeping in touch with loved ones by phone or online, and by exercising at home. There is need to ensure that people should remain informed of whatever condition that is going on, and exercise is very important, at least to ensure that our breathing system is well maintained and we are able to keep ourselves warm, which is actually very, very important. Let me tell you that since the onset of this COVID-19, many things have happened. In terms of education, we have experienced a very serious challenge because many schools have not been functioning normally. Many countries have experienced lockdown, the curfews and everything, and life is no longer the same. And because of this COVID-19, it has impacted education in two different ways, that is positively and negatively. And what I may like us to understand is that the COVID-19 pandemic is first and foremost a health crisis. Many countries have rightly decided to close schools, colleges, and universities. The crisis crystallizes the dilemma to policymakers, which are they are facing between closing schools, reducing contact, and saving lives, and keeping them open, allowing workers to work and maintain the economy. Many countries are struggling to survive just because many organizations, many industries, many factories are not functioning the normal way, which means production has been affected. Consumption is also a problem. When we talk about funds, Many people actually have lost jobs and they are not able to get their daily bread. The severe short-term disruption is felt by many families around the world. Homeschooling is not only a massive shock to parents' productivity, but also to children's social life and learning. Teaching is moving online on an untested and unprecedented scale. Students' assessment are also moving online with a lot of trial and error and uncertainty for everyone. Many assessments have simply been cancelled. Importantly, this interruption will not just be a short-term issue, but can also have long-term consequences for the effects cohorts and are likely to increase inequality. To impact the impact of COVID-19 on education can be viewed from two perspectives, namely positive and negative. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that in this world, for whatever that we experience, for whatever that we encounter, it must be having a positive aspect and a negative aspect. In the case of positive aspect, we can see now there is this use of technology. Initially, it was proving to be very difficult to convince people that there is need for us to employ technology in the teaching and learning. At the moment, because of COVID-19, we have seen what is happening. We are able now to communicate. Even though we are staying far apart, we are very much connected with the technology, and the same could be actually useful in terms of providing education to our people. We do understand that challenges are there. Some may not be able to get sufficient funds which can support the same. But what I believe is that with the time, it is likely to improve, and ways might be found which can ensure that cheap and safe technology is obtained and education is going on unaffected. We can also say that because of this COVID-19, it has also assisted in enhancing creativity among teachers and learners, because life has to continue. And for life to continue, with or without COVID, we need to find ways of ensuring that what we are supposed to do, we are able to do it, irrespective of the challenges which are just there. Another thing I can say is about advancement in the field of communication. If there is a sector which has really experienced a tremendous change, it is actually a communication sector. Who knew that we could have a conference while we are residing in different countries, but we share information without hindrances? It is actually a wonderful invention. What I may say is that what we are experiencing now is actually a drop in the mighty ocean. Many more are there to come. Many more are there to be witnessed, so that we could be able to continue doing things the way they are supposed to be without much interference. We have this emerging of education without boundaries. We have started seeing a scenario, a situation whereby now learners are able to access learning facilities from other geographical boundaries without any hindrance, which means you can get educated from another country when you are researching in your country without any problem. We have seen people getting courses, programs from other places because of this particular pandemic, and now technology has been employed, and we are able to see people doing it without much difficulties, which means the geographical boundaries which are there, they are no longer hindrances as far as getting education is concerned. You can get it from anywhere without much challenges or without much bureaucracy. Those are just but a few to be mentioned. In the case of the negative, we can see that COVID-19 has really impacted education negatively in the following ways. We have seen uncontrollable behaviors among learners because most of the time they are now staying unattended. They normally used to go to school, stay with the teachers there for some time, and then go home. When they go home, they meet with their family members, and life continues. But now you can imagine of a scenario whereby parents have to look for food. They need to look for something to do in order to put food on the table. The children are at home, they are not going to school. What do you expect to happen? You find that they have started roaming around, they have started interacting with the other children with the bad behaviors, and as a result, you find that we have started seeing children with uncontrollable behaviors. There is also this element of time wastage. Since these children are left at home, who is there to monitor what they are just doing? Even when they have got teachings which are taking place, which are online, for how long do you think that these people will have that kind of concentration to continue doing what is right for them? There is a possibility that they may get out and start playing here and there, which could be actually a wastage of time. And by the end of the day, you find that very little has been done as far as their education is concerned. We have also experienced a case of early pregnancies among learners because they have been left without care. They have been left without somebody to attend to them. And as a result, you find that some kind of relationships have started, which have actually resulted in early pregnancies in various countries, which is actually becoming a world crisis. We have also a case of parents' inability to go to work. Some have found it difficult to go to work because they are feeling it necessary to be around their children to know what they are just doing. Some have been dismissed from their places of work just because of this pandemic and because of the issue of social distancing. And as a result, they are not able now to work. Family economic crisis. Many families could be experiencing an economic crisis because what they used to do, they are not able to do it. They are not able to earn a living. If at all they are earning a living, it is not sufficient to sustain the family, which is actually a serious issue to be thought of, and a suitable solution actually is supposed to be found to ensure that we are safe and we are able to do what is expected of us in the normal way. We have a problem of lack of sufficient and nutritious food. Because of the pandemic, many people are not able to work. And if they are not able to work, how do they access this nutritious food? it is becoming a serious issue. Some countries could be having a system whereby maybe food could be distributed. Even if it is distributed, how sure are we that the quality of this is taken care of, and whatever is supplied is sufficient to cater for entire family? That is actually a serious issue which needs to be addressed. We have also increased criminal activities because of maybe many have lost jobs. There is a possibility that some people may resort into some other ways, actually illegal ways of ensuring that they are able to get their daily bread, which is actually a criminal offense. Another one which we may look at is the inability to afford online classes. We have seen from the time the COVID-19 came into existence, many institutions have tried to provide online learning. This online learning has become a serious challenge to many. You can imagine if learners have to learn, who is there to provide bundles to be able to access these online classes? It has actually become a serious challenge, and it needs to be addressed before too late. In other words, what I can say is that there is a possibility that in any country, we may have a scenario whereby those ones who are able to afford may continue with education, and the ones who are not able may remain where they are, which could be a serious problem. And even the social aspect is likely to be affected, which is actually a serious issue to be addressed. In my own view, I strongly believe that at this particular moment, various governments, they need to move at speed and ensure that many things are in place for education of the children to continue. If it is not taken care of, there is a possibility of having a future generation which may prove to be very problematic, which may not be controlled, which may not be for development. Instead, it will be for destruction, which could be a serious issue. And for that very reason, various organizations, various countries, various maybe well-wishers, they need to come up with a mechanism, with a way of ensuring that education of children is taken care of, and more especially the ones from poor families, which is actually very, very important. My audience, this makes the end of my presentation. And for those ones who may have questions, they are at liberty to do so.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed motivating and extremely informative. We are so honored and privileged to have you amongst us. Participants, if you have any queries, you may unmute your audio and shoot the questions. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. Participants, you may ask questions.
Sir, Dr. Arun Kumar Mandal has asked in YouTube that, is there any impact of gross enrollment rate on gross domestic product during COVID-19 pandemic situation in India?
Divya, please ask your questions one more time.
Yes. In YouTube, Dr. Arun Kumar Mandal has asked that is there any impact of gross enrollment rate on gross domestic product during COVID-19 pandemic in India?
So I don't know exactly whether that question is directed to me. Hello? Is that the question directed to me?
Yes, sir. This question was directed for you, and it is also posted in the chat box. Also, you can also see it in the chat box.
Okay. I think from this end, I'm not able to see. Personally, as I am talking, I'm based in Kenya. What I may say is that from the time COVID-19 came into existence, we have experienced a serious problem, more especially in terms of enrollment. We have cases whereby you find that some parents could be having children who have attained the age of going to school, but you find that they are not feeling comfortable to send their children to school. We have also other cases whereby you find that because of the pandemic, some institutions are also trying to look for means and ways of maybe supporting these children to get their education, but unfortunately, the resources are proving to be meager because you find that much has been injected to fight this pandemic. So what education is receiving, education sector is receiving is actually not sufficient to sustain the online learning. I don't know what I've responded to the question.
Mr. Pete, very welcome. I am Deepa from Madurai Kamaraj University.
Yes, I'm happy to see you.
I'm also happy to see you. So what is the, just to pose a question, I'm asking, what is the working condition there? Is there any difficulties you faculties are facing there in your university? Working at home, is it convenient for you?
What I may like to say is that as far as this pandemic is concerned, I may say that the situation is not very, very serious in Kenya, maybe due to climatical condition. Many institutions are facing challenges, including mine, that is Mount Kenya University. The reason as why I'm saying that some are facing such challenges, it is because sometimes we are on and off. Whenever we are told to close up and go home, we resort into online teaching. When we resort into this online teaching, we have experienced cases whereby some students are not able to afford bundles to be able to go online. We have even done some examinations online, which is actually, I can say, which was a plus point due to COVID-19. In these examinations, some responded positively and some students did not respond positively. The reason as to why this one is actually witnessed is that some people, you may find that their computer knowledge may not be sufficient for them to be able to write examination online. So that is a serious challenge that we are experiencing. We have had some doing online exams and some avoid it deliberately because they have a belief that they may not be able to go through because of their low knowledge as far as computer is concerned.
Thank you, please. Thank you.
Participants, any other questions? Please ask.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. This is Vincent. I think you could recognize me.
Yes, I'm able to recognize
During this
you.
pandemic, thank you once again. I think you have visited our college 2004 for presenting a paper in Lakshmi College of Education. And after that, I think over 1.5 decades, you have come over here. Thanks a lot for that. But my question is, see, it is a pandemic period, so everybody is encouraging, or whether there is no other go also except other than online classing. But psychologically, there is a barrier between the student and teachers. What do you comment on that, please? There is a psychological barrier.
Okay. We do understand that something is better than nothing. Remember, we are talking about education, and we say that education is a right of each and every child. When we find that it is not possible to do it, we look for the most appropriate way of doing it. Even though there is that psychological barrier, somehow, those ones who are able to access this one, to some extent, they are able to feel comfortable because the anxiety to learn is somehow satisfied. Unlike those ones who are not able to access these online things, which means in this case, the online is the best way to go in the absence of the other one, which is very familiar to us and very conversant. I don't know whether I've answered you.
Yes, of course, I do agree with that. Something is, something is better than nothing. Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Most respected Peterson sir, you have done a great job, sir. You have done a great job. We are delighted by your presentation. On behalf of the organizing team, we wholeheartedly thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, dear most respected Peterson sir, for your wonderful presentation. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you very well.
Yeah, there is no questions from my side. Just I want to greet you with the appreciation.
That's really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Harini, if there is no queries, please you proceed, ma.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You have answered all the questions with patience. Thank you. Learn to be thankful for what you already have while you pursue all that you want. Now, I request Ms. Aarti to present a vote of thanks.
Success is not a key to happiness. Happiness is a success. A very good afternoon to one and all gathered here. While it is obvious to feel happy to deliver a vote of thanks, and I feel blessed about this role. On the one-week International Faculty Development Program organized by Lakshmi College of Education, associated with Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University. First of all, I sincere thanks to Almighty God for making this event as a grand success. By His blessing, we are able to make the event to us. A special mention to our Venerable Vice Chair, Dean of Faculty, Controller of Examination, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chair, Secretary, Principal of Lakshmi College of Education, being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best and stand as a pillar of power. Next, I would like to thank Mr. Resource Person Dr. Peterson Obara, a coordinator, Mount Kenya University, Kenya, who handled the section on education and COVID-19. He spent his busiest time facing this occasion. Today, had the opportunity to hear your thoughts. Through his speech, he insisted that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected education system worldwide. leading to the closure of universities and colleges. Most governments decided to temporarily close educational institutions in an attempt to reduce the spread of COVID-19 and so on. Next, I would like to thank Ms. M. Kalaivani, Assistant Professor, Lakshmi College of Education, for introducing the resources. I would like to explore my gratitude to the organizing team and conveners. Next, I would like to acknowledge our gratitude to the technical team from America to USA. The essence of fruit is always tasted in the last, and we believe that the last will be best. We will like to thank our students, Mr. S. Johnson, second year Lakshmi College of Education, who gave a glad welcome address, and R. Harini, alumnus of Lakshmi College of Education, for master ceremony. Next, I would like to thank all the participants and faculty from various colleges. Your presence made us feel proud. Thank you, your friends and faculty. For that, I thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Aarti. Gentlemen.
Sir, thank you. Harini, one second, hold on, please. Harini. Dear Peterson.
Yes.
Dear Peterson. Sorry
Yes.
for inconvenience. Actually, there is another one question from Dr. Sharath Dajun. He has asked a question. Could you answer that before
Yes,
winding up the session?
I'm very much ready.
Yeah. The question is, do you think that this pandemic is conspiracy of the developed country? This is the question.
It may not be very, very easy to tell exactly what it is. In many times, we have had rumors from everywhere, but we may not be able to prove that one. It might be actually an economic war. There was rumors that China had taken more development programs in various countries, unlike those other developed countries. Somehow, it might be true or false, but we are not able to tell exactly what it is. It might be an economic war, or it might be something these developed countries were trying maybe to do some kind of experimentation, and it just escaped their laboratories, and it is now there troubling us. But what we need also to understand is this: God is in control. We need actually to rely to our Creator, our Protector, because we may not say that we have got the capacity to manage this. It is actually God who is in control. We have seen it happen. Like now, there was a strong belief that if that one comes to Africa, people will die like insects. But let me tell you that many people decided to go to God and ask for His mercy. Somehow, we have seen people surviving, and the cases of these instances are actually fewer in Africa.
Oh, thank you. And another one question from Dr. B. Kannan from Madurai Kamaraj University. I think you would have recognized him.
I know him
what is
very
the
well.
role of, what is the role of parents for early childhood, primary children?
What is the role of? Come again, please.
May I read out the question, sir? What is the role of parents during the pandemic?
The role of
situation?
parents. Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. What is the role of parents during this pandemic situation on the part of the primary students, sir? Are you getting, sir?
Okay. With or without the pandemic, parents have got a greater role to ensure that education of their children is appropriately done. Now, with this pandemic, it is very, very essential for parents to ensure that their safety, their security is highly taken care of. You know, for smaller children, they don't know most of these things we talk about. When we talk about putting on the mask, hand washing, and very many other things, they may not do it seriously. And they may not understand the seriousness of this particular virus, which has really terrorized the entire world. So it is actually the responsibility of parents to ensure that every day they monitor their children. They need to ensure that their health is taken care of. Before, maybe in the family, they should make sure that if they are not going to school, they are at home, they are properly taken care of. Initially, they had believed that once children have gone to school, teachers will take care. But now, children are with them. And since they are with them, they are not doing only parenting. They also ensure that their education is actually taken care of. If it is online learning, it is actually these parents who are supposed to monitor whether it is taking place or not. Where they have issues, where they have challenges, parents are there now to ensure that those challenges are actually done away with, which means parents now are playing the role of a parent and a teacher.
So thank you very much. Harini, you may end up.
Gentlewomen and men of honor, your presence made this day a memorable day. Thank you for listening, for inspiration, for encouragement, for being here, and most importantly, for giving your time and making your presence. Once again, thanks to the hard worker that all the team members have done, teachers, students, organizers, and every team members to make this possible. And what you witnessed was really the efforts and hard work. Thank you, sir.
Dear Peterson, thank you very much, sir.
I'm very, very, very thankful also. You convey my regards to all of people over there. I miss you dearly.
Thank you.
I miss you dearly.
Thank you. I could understand you are struggling that I was taken so far for about 1.5 hours to enter inside the Google Meet. So
it is okay. It is
so
okay.
I should thank you on behalf of the organizing it. Okay, thank you, sir.
I was
again and again. Please keep in touch. Yeah. We could understand your situation. So please keep in touch. Please, after the pandemic period, please visit again.
I'll do so, and also
Madurai Kamaraj University as well as Lakshmi College of Education, Gandhigram.
Yes.
You are
This is really wonderful.
thank you, sir. Very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
all
much.
the dignitaries. Thank you. Thank you for the kindly help from Madam from Malaysia. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kidanjali, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Subramani sir, shall we wind up the session, or is there anything to comment?
No, sir.
Mani sir, meeting irukanga நினைக்கிறேன். I think Manish is okay. Yeah. We could understand that. We can sum up here.
Sir, I would like to speak with Peterson, sir. Sir,
Yep.
Peterson,
Please proceed.
On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, we wholeheartedly thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time with us to place this occasion more meaningful and more delightful. Thank you so much, sir. Your presentation was so good.
Thank you very much.
We have learned so many things from you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You are also most welcome to come to Kenya. Also, you experience life in Africa.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah. Most welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.